Good morning, everybody. It's funny how everybody had the same reaction when you walked in the door. Nobody noticed the chairs at first until somebody said, "Do you see anything new?"
Now.
They're like, "Oh, look at the chairs, look at the
Now, I want
chairs."
you to know, Steve, I walked through that door, told everybody hi. There wasn't too many people in here, and I looked at the chair and I said, new chairs. I
Yeah,
said, what?
yeah, everybody was that way. Everybody's like, "Oh, there's new chairs." So we're thankful that they're here, and for the people that organized it and put it together, we're thankful for them as well. So, Miss Courtney's going to play a song for us, and she learned this song. She's never played it before. She's never heard it before, so she learned it just for today. In my heart there rings a melody. I have a song that Jesus gave me. It was sent from heaven above. There never was a sweeter melody. 'Tis a melody of love. In my heart there rings a melody. There rings a melody of heaven's harmony. In my heart there rings a melody. There rings a melody of love. I love the Christ who died on Calvary, for he washed my sins away. He put within my heart a melody, and I know it's there to stay. In my heart there rings a melody, there rings a melody with heaven's harmony. In my heart there rings a melody, there rings a melody of love. 'Twill be my endless theme in glory, with the angels I will sing. 'Twill be a song with glorious harmony, when the chords of heaven's ring. In my heart there rings a melody, there rings a melody with heaven's harmony. In my heart there rings a melody, there rings a melody of love. Good job, good job. Thanks, Courtney, for learning that. Appreciate it. So, as you know, when you first came in, you picked up a song sheet and you picked up the schedule for the next 2 months. I wanted to give you plenty of notice for everything coming up. And on that is, in 2 weeks from today is our November lunch, and that's our Thanksgiving luncheon. And there's a sign-up sheet here for specific Thanksgiving type themed foods. So if you have a chance to sign up for that, you can sign up next week if you don't have any idea today what you want to bring. And our question today has to do with chairs, since we have new chairs today. So this was interesting. This was interesting. I was looking up when the very first chair was discovered or invented. It was 5,800 years ago in a country that I want you to guess the country. Okay? And you get one guess. Carmel?
Ireland?
Nope.
What'd you say?
Ireland. Angelique?
Egypt?
Yes! Egypt. What they did is they took basic benches and they added a back seat, and the concept of the chair was born. So our process is Halloween themed candy. Yes. Yes. All right.
She's a genius.
Miss Donna, it's all you, Miss Donna.
Can't you tell?
Donna matches the chairs. Her outfit matches.
I knew that we were getting new chairs, that's why I wore this.
Connie just noticed.
I did the same thing, don't
When
feel
did
bad.
new chairs happen, Steve? This week, last week?
They delivered. They came in yesterday.
Yesterday.
We had a crew here unloading.
Okay,
All right, get Donna your attention.
okay. Wife, what are you doing? husband.
Hold on, Donna, hold on. Y'all, please give Donna your attention.
Hello.
We're just like, the chairs are just.
I know, y'all are just so excited about the chairs.
We are. There's a pocket on the back of it.
I know, I saw that.
There's a pocket. Pocket.
Okay,
Something in there.
here we go.
Go ahead, Donna.
All right. Wife, what are you doing? Husband, nothing. Wife, nothing. You've been reading our marriage certificate for over an hour. Husband, I was looking for the expiration date. Wife, oh, I won't do that one. Wife, well, it's not nothing wrong with it. It's just not funny. So needed to tell you. But anyway, wife, you always carry my photo in your wallet. Why? Hubby, when there's a problem, no matter how impossible, I look at your picture and the problem disappears. Why? You see how wonderful and powerful I am for you? Husband, yes, I see your picture and ask myself what other problems can there be greater than this one? Girl, when we get married, I want to share all my worries, troubles, and lighten you, your burdens. Boy, it's very kind of you, darling, but I don't have any worries or troubles. Girl, well, that's because we aren't married yet. Son, this one here, when I first started telling jokes, Tyler was in here, and I told this joke. It's really not that funny, but he thought it was hilarious. So he laughed out loud. But anyway, it says, son, Mom, when I was on the bus with Dad this morning, he told me to give up my seat to a lady. Mom, well, you have done the right thing. Son, but Mom, I was sitting on Dad's lap. Father to son after an exam. Let me see your report card. Son, my friend just farted. He wants to scare his parents. Girl to her boyfriend. One kiss and I'll be yours forever. The guy replied, thanks for the early warning. Okay. A blonde walks into a gas station and asks an employee, I locked my keys in the car. Do you have a coat hanger or something I can stick to the window to unlock the door? 10 minutes later, a trucker comes in and can't stop laughing. So the employee asks him what's so funny. The trucker replied, there's a blonde who is trying to open her car with a coat hanger. The employee says, so what? This could happen to anyone. But the trucker explained, sure, but usually there isn't another blonde in the car who's yelling a little more to the right, a little more to the left. All right, what I've learned in life is that for every inch of sadness lies a foot of happiness ahead. I've learned that the simplest of things brings the grandest of pleasure, and the hardest goodbyes often lead to the best hellos. I learned that crazy chances guide us to unexpected discoveries, and that tough times unveil the sincerity of people. I've learned that you have to hold on to your smile every day and free yourself of the things that make you frown.
Howdy, everybody. Hello. I like that song, but that song is it's so fast. A lot of other older songs, give us space, but this is like boom, 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 boom. It's hard to breathe when you're doing it. All right, so we're I was looking at that schedule that Steve gave. Thank you, by the way, Steve, for making those. We've got a couple this month. I think we have today and one more, and then we only have, 2 in December, Steve? Something like that? Yeah, so we're not going to get too far, and that's okay. That's okay. We'll take our time. But, so we're getting towards the season. We kind of passed Halloween, which actually was great for me last night. I was at a party, and my buddy proposed to his girlfriend in a unique way for them. But the way that he did it, she didn't know if it was real. So it was kind of, yeah, it was a little embarrassing, I think, for her. And then he's like, she goes, I don't know. And he says, wait, really? Like, he was petrified. His face was like, so, but he had some of us there, and though it's like, yeah. She said, well, her first words were, well, sure. So, but then she's like, well, of course, yes, yeah, it was, yeah. And I think she cried a little bit when they were hugging, and yeah, it was really great. But she was just so shocked, because he was in costume, and it was just a thing that the character does, and she just didn't know how to react. So, yeah, but it was really interesting because again, he made it special for the two of them, something that she would enjoy. I think Halloween's her favorite holiday. Yeah, so it was it's kind of neat. You have to play to who you know. You got to know people really well. So I like that. So we're in Genesis 13. And so we've got Abram, he's got his wife and his possessions. He's had to journey down to Egypt because of the famine. Okay, he's had this little interaction with the Pharaoh where he said, oh, Sarai's my wife, and then the Pharaoh takes her into the household. He doesn't do anything with her, but at the same time, God's like, this is not right, She belongs to someone else, and so he kind of clears all that up, So here we are, we're going to start with Abram there. And I want someone to go from verse 1 through verse 7.
So Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev with his wife and everything he had, and Lot went with him. Abram had become very wealthy in livestock and in silver and gold. From the Negev he went from place to place until he came to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had been earlier, and where he had first built an altar. There Abram called on the name of the Lord. Now Lot, who was moving about with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, but the land could not support them while they stayed together, for their possessions were so great that they were not able to stay together. And quarreling arose between Abram and herdsmen, and the herdsmen of Lot, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, were also living in the land at that time.
Okay, so we've set up a scene here. What does Abram have now? Wealth, riches. He obtained a lot of it, of course, while he was in Egypt. So he had some of it before, but now in Egypt, the Pharaoh has just blessed him because of all this. Don't let God curse me anymore. So now he's got a lot of stuff, okay? And what does all that stuff mean?
Space.
Space. Lots and lots of space. My buddy could tell you a lot better in Ohio. He used to raise cattle. That's how he grew up. And then he still keeps the land, but they don't do cattle anymore. His father stopped when he went into the Air Force. And when he got back, his dad was too old, and then Scott didn't really want to continue with it. But he has to do something where he has to actually trim all of the grass throughout all these pasture lands, or else it gets really high. Well, normally the animals would eat it. And we're not talking hundreds of cattle, we're talking like 30 to 50. And he's got 60 acres that he has, yeah. Now imagine if you had 1,000 cattle, how many acres you would need. It's quite a bit, okay? And then if you have people tending them, you're going to need space for them to stay, okay? So if he's got all of these, if he's got herdsmen, not just one, all right, and he has all these cattle, all right, what he's going to need is a lot of space, all right? He says something here that's very interesting to Lot. What does he say? Oh no, I'm sorry, we haven't gotten there yet. So he's identifying that there's this issue here, yeah. But he goes back to the same place where he was previously, okay, where he built the altar. Altars, again, are very important to them because that's their way of, it's a method of worship for them, okay? Again, throughout the millennia, and even the Jews would kind of still do it now if they were to obey in an Orthodox way, use the altar, okay? They would use the one that's in Jerusalem, or would have been in Jerusalem. They would have used that to make sacrifices as the law commanded. Well, here, Abram doesn't have a law that we know of, all right? Abel being the first one to bring livestock and sacrifice them. It could have been a tradition that was handed down, okay? Again, I spoke a little bit about patriarchal law. They think maybe that there was an establishment of rules that were set out by the patriarchs, and they kind of passed them down. And so the ones that end up being righteous kind of keep these rules, keep these laws, but they're never codified. They're not written down anywhere that we know of, but that's kind of what scholars believe. And so he goes back to this place where this altar was, because it's familiar to him. He's probably been there a couple years, and this is again a place where he can call upon the name of the Lord again at this altar, okay? Now, someone read from 8 through 13.
Then Abram talked it over with Lot. This argument between our herdsmen has got to stop, he said. After all, we are close relatives. I'll tell you what we'll do. Take your choice of any section of land you want, and we'll separate. If you want that area over there, then I'll stay here. If you want to stay here in this area, then I'll move on to another place. Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley in the direction of Zoar. The whole area was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord or the beautiful land of Egypt. This was before the Lord had destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot chose the land for himself, the Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flocks and servants and parted company with his uncle Abram. So while Abram stayed in the land of Canaan, Lot moved his tents to a place near Sodom, one of the cities of the plain. The people in this area were unusually wicked and sinned greatly against the Lord.
Okay. So Abram identifies an issue. What's the issue? Abram identifies an issue that's going on. What's the issue?
Quarreling.
Quarreling. Between whom?
Well, herdsmen.
Herdsmen, okay? What's his call? What call does he make? Split up. But what choice does Abram make in this situation? What does he say to Lot?
He gave Lot the choice.
He gave Lot the choice. Why does he do this?
That's a good question. I didn't-
What was it? Say it again. Say it.
I said he's a bigger man.
Right. He's more mature. He's older. He knows better. So Abram, being more mature in the Lord especially, defers to the younger who doesn't know better and may have not made the same call. So Abram, being close to God, could have made whatever choice he wanted to, right? But he doesn't. He says, you know what? I love my nephew. I'm rich. What am I going to worry about? Life's pretty easy. Lot, you pick the best place you want. Go ahead. So Lot picks, what'd you say?
And he does.
And he does. He picks the best place. It's well watered, like the Garden of Eden. Okay? It's so beautiful. It's so pleasing to the eyes. He says, I got to take my stuff there. And Abram isn't upset. He defers to Lot. This is something that we have to look at as Christians. In the New Testament, Paul consistently talks about us deferring to one another. Now, if there's an adult and a child, kind of like this situation, all right? Adult and a child, and there's a pizza in front of them. And there is, say, one slice left.
Too bad.
Right, who should make the call on, who do you think should make the call on how the pizza's divided here? This one pizza.
The adult.
The adult, right? No. Paul says, you're so mature and you're so strong in your faith that you don't need the piece of pizza. Let them have it. And so here, Abram says, you know what? That's the last piece. It's the best piece, the most flavorful one. It's got all the great toppings, like anchovies. Delicious. Yeah, no anchovies.
No.
So he says, you choose what you want. Do you want it or not? And Lot says, yeah, absolutely, I want it. And God, because of this, still blesses Abram. His faith is strong enough that he knows he doesn't have to have the best. God's going to bless him regardless. So why is he worried about what he wants? That's us. Why do we worry about what we want? When I walked in this room and I looked past faces, the first thing I saw was gray. And I identified that something had changed. It wasn't purple like normal. Okay, I do colors and numbers and things like that. I see that, and so I was like, oh my gosh, new chairs, you know? But I had to look past the people first, okay? If I said, I don't like these purple chairs and I'm not going to teach in this room, how would all of you feel? Would you feel good about that? But wait, I'm someone who teaches the Bible. I'm supposed to be spiritually mature. But I'm getting upset about the color of the chairs. Say it louder.
Petty. Priorities aren't straight.
Right. It's you, Karen. Yeah. Say it.
Petty.
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 Churches get divided over what hymnal to use,
All the time.
the color of the carpet,
Oh, heavens.
the drapes,
Yeah.
whether or not we have a freezer.
I'm missing something.
Here it comes. It's coming. What songs we sing when we gather together.
There you go. You're right.
What someone wears when they're on stage.
Yeah. Keep talking.
How long service is.
Yeah.
We got more specific, right?
We're not to bicker and complain.
Right. Petty.
No one listens.
Where are our priorities? Right? We are supposed to be, and I'm referring to we, this group specifically, are supposed to be mature believers. Is anyone in this room been a Christian for less than 10 years? You were baptized less than 10 years ago. Anybody? Anybody less than 20 years ago? Anybody less than 30 years ago? Anybody less than 40 years ago?
Do y'all understand the question? I mean,
Oh, well, yeah. Were any of you baptized earlier than 1990? Who was baptized after 1990?
Rededication.
Well, your first baptism. Well, there's one baptism, but your first one. I was baptized in 89. Everyone in this room after 90. 33 years ago. 33 years ago, almost 34.
before 90.
Yeah, you were all baptized before 90. Yeah, so it's been over 34 years. Everyone in here should be a mature Christian that's mature enough to understand the color of chairs, the type of carpet, how many pews, what style they are, how we perform in service, what order we do, how we do communion, what songs we sing, who stands on stage, how bright the lights are, what kind of music. I mean, there's rules that go here and there with some of that. All of that is petty, prioritized, insignificant stuff. It should be number 10 on your list, well, if one's most important, 10 on your list of things of importance. It should not be that you're so wrapped up in all this physical stuff that you can't do what you're supposed to do for God. That you can't worship Him, that you can't commune with Him, that you can't learn from Him.
Can I share something, Russell?
Sure, please, yeah.
I have an aunt that has like the ADD, and she, looks around and she can't focus. She says so. She brings a color book and crayons, and it keeps her focused on like, oh, her hair is showing apart, or she needs to sit better, or this, that, and the other thing. And she'll sit there and she'll say, now I wonder who's making fun of me sitting here coloring during worship, And I'm like, yeah, but you're trying to focus on what you should focus on. I don't think you should worry about the coloring, what everybody thinks of that. You're keeping your mind focused on where it should be.
Right, we get too wrapped up in all that stuff. Okay, Rudy, please.
It was an odd experience, but Diana and I went to a church, let's just say in that direction, not too far from here, and everything, the pew colors, the walls, background, the carpet up, everything was red. Now, I felt uncomfortable, and Diana did too, did you? So, the surface was not quite as off color as the room appeared to be, but we also did go back a second time. The red was a strange color for a church to be. We felt like we were in the waiting room or the vestibule of hell.
I'm going to make a comment real quick.
Okay?
What did he say? It was not color for a... Say it louder. Church. What color is the church? What color is the church? What color is the church? Multicolored. Why is it multicolored?
We're the church.
Because of the people who make it up. It's not about the color of the walls. It's not about whether it has a ceiling, whether it has walls. Someone said, and I can't remember where I heard it, but it was recently, that if the building was burned down, there was a person that would still be there. That's the kind of testimony you're supposed to have, that you teach to those little ones. And those little ones are sometimes 40 years old, 30 years old. They're not little, and it's rough sometimes. I want an electric guitar on stage. I don't want that organ. I grew up with the organ, so I get it. But I still don't want it. But if we put an organ up there, oh, I'm just not going to go in the sanctuary. I'm not going to go in that room because they got an organ in there. What does that do? What does that do? Creates division. It puts me at enmity with people who enjoy the organ. If we did only hymns, and I say, well, wait a minute, I don't necessarily want to do only hymns. And you guys all want hymns. And you're so happy. And then we have younger people who go, wait a minute, I don't know any of these. What if we said,
Sorry for them.
well, that, yeah, they are brought up in church. They don't get that. You start talking about blood, and they go, whoa, I don't do the vampires. I thought we were supposed to get away from all that. And yet, these are important things theologically, things that we talk about. It's part of who we are as people. We have to lead them and guide them right here, as Abram does with his nephew. He says, this is an important thing for you to understand. I'm deferring to you. God's going to bless me regardless. I'm going to defer to what you want. Remember that. He's going to bless you. You've been a believer for years. God's with you. You know that. So all these little things that can cause division, that can cause hurt or pain to someone that you poke in the chest, look at yourself. What are you doing to serve the body? And when it's teaching, loving, getting over the small, petty things, putting your priorities at people's souls, at winning souls, it changes your perspective. Changes your perspective. It doesn't matter if you don't like those cookies that Shirley from Apple brings every single time. You don't have to eat them, okay? But you don't have to go and complain about them to everybody either.
As long as it's something that's not in the Bible that they're trying to put.
Exactly. You know one thing that's in the Bible that we do in a weird way? What's something in Scripture that's not really laid out that we do every Sunday, but it's not really told exactly how we do it, and we do it in a specific way? Communion. Do we do communion correctly?
No.
What do you mean by that?
Right. What do I mean by that? What's the correct way? Do you know the correct way, Yolanda?
It's with the right heart.
With the right heart. Does it matter if the wafers and the juice were the little teeny thing? Or if they're given out by deacons? Or if they're given out by women? The way I was raised, that would have been a big no. Women serving the... Oh, no, no, no.
But yet they could fix it.
Yeah, they could fix it. They could pour it. Oh, they're the ones who do it because the guys are too getting their TV ready to record the game before after church. So, right. All that stuff, we get so wrapped up. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. If your heart's right when you go before God for communion, then it's done correctly. Whether you break it, if it's unleavened or leavened, or whether it's those little crunchy, teeny little white crackers that I never saw until we moved to Virginia, or if it's wafers that somebody bought, or bread that someone actually made. It doesn't matter. Does it have to be leavened or unleavened? None of that matters. We get wrapped up in all of that. Stop. This is where we see Abram's maturity. And God has something to say about that.
He blessed him.
Right? This is what God has to say when he makes this call. Someone read from verse 14 to the end.
The Lord said to Abram after Lot had parted from him, Lift up your eyes from where you are and look north and south, east and west. All the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted. So go walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I am giving it to you. So Abram moved his tents and went to live near the great trees of Mamre at Hebron, where he built an altar to the Lord.
Okay. What does God say to him after all of this? Bless him even more. There's something specific that God says he's going to do it 3 times. This is the first one.
All the land that you see.
He said that before about Canaan.
Lift up your
The
eyes.
descendants. What does he say about the descendants?
Be like dust, as many as dust.
They'll be like dust of the earth. This is the first of 3 of these special sayings that God tells Abram. He's going to build upon this one. Typically, it's after Abram does something of importance, or before he does something of importance. God is gearing up Abram to do one of the most beautiful things in Scripture. I don't want to spoil it. Many of you probably know what it is. But what? What is it?
Sacrifice of Isaac.
Right. He's gearing him up to make the beautiful symbol of the thing that we worship. The sacrifice of Christ on the cross. Okay? He is building him up towards this. And God, of course, when you see in Scripture, God does things in numbers. And 3 being like the number of man. But he's going to build up where he's going with these promises. Okay? First, of course, he promises, oh, go to the land of Canaan. I'm going to give it to you and people will be blessed. And the people curse you will be cursed. Okay? He says that. And then now Abram makes this great gesture of love towards Lot, defers to him, and then Abram gets this blessing from God. Okay, now I know how much you love me. I know your faith. Now I'm going to bless you even more, and here's going to be your descendants. You're not just going to be a nation. You're going to have this many descendants, like the dust of the earth. Okay, this incredible amount. Do you think anyone could count the dust of the earth? No, it's just not possible. All right? It's not possible for anyone to do. And yet he says if anyone could do it, of course God's the only one who could, but if anyone could do it, then they would be able to number your descendants. Okay? This is millions and millions of billions of descendants. Okay? Then after he makes this promise, what does Abram do?
Sacrifice.
Right. He moves, and what's the first thing he does when he gets there? Builds an altar. Why does he build an altar? Give thanks. Worship. Again, we don't see the transition from flesh to spirit until after what? Back then, they worshipped in the flesh. They sacrificed animals. They were commanded to do things physically. You can't do this physically. You have to do this physically. Okay? Everything was a physical ritual. You have to keep these seasons and these days and these times. Then it changes from being fleshly of the body to being something else. What does it transition to? The Spirit. What does Jesus say about that? About the Spirit.
I'm in Bible study.
Is that Anna? Everyone say hi, Anna.
Hi, Anna. Hello, I'm in Bible study.
Oh, he hung up on him. Oh, boy.
No, I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
Dude.
So yeah, the Spirit. Jesus says now you worship at those places, because again, in Samaria, they built high places. They built altars where they weren't supposed to. And Jesus says, certainly there will be a time when you will worship in spirit and in truth. It's not about this anymore. We've moved away from that. Abram's still under that. He still makes the altar. He still makes the sacrifices. He gives thanks that way. Do we sacrifice animals for thanks? Well, we kill turkeys and eat them. But no, we don't sacrifice them and burn them on an altar and say, this one's for God, okay? We don't have to do that. Jesus did that. So we don't worship in this flesh anymore. You worship in spirit. And that much more, why do we worry about all this stuff? All of this. When I went to, a second joke, when I was preaching out in Ohio, one of the elders would always stand up every Sunday morning and he would say, it's so great to be in God's house. It made me cringe every time I heard that. I grew up hearing that. It's great to be in the fellowship of believers. Okay, that's great. It's great to be in God's house. Urgh. Sometimes God's house back aches. Sometimes God's house gets tired. How does a house get tired? Oh, that's because the Spirit's in me. This is God's house. This is not. This is a building. We use this. It's a facility. Okay? When you wrap yourself up in this physical stuff, that's when you get upset. If you wrapped yourself up in the stuff of the Spirit, you would have concern for those who aren't close to Jesus like you are. I imagine a lot of you may read your Bible or have devotions that you do all the time. Okay? Pray regularly. It's become habitual for you. That's great. A lot of those don't know that. Don't do that. I don't read Bible every day. In fact, reading the Bible can sometimes for me be a negative. Because when I see something, I start to go down rabbit holes, as I've discussed with my Monday group. It can become negative. Because then I focus on the wrong things. I focus on the word and its meaning. And I dig into that word. But that doesn't do anything for me spiritually. It increases my knowledge. But it doesn't help me help others. But prayer, so important. Prayer works in us to communicate with God, to get close. That's like he does with this altar here. He sacrifices and prays to God and talks to him. We don't have to have that. We have the Spirit. So when we think about all the structures we have, if it's not in the Bible, then we don't worry about it so much. We got to start to let it go. That's maturity. When you move beyond the physical and all of that of importance. These tables are round. Man, round tables, in my opinion, are hard to really sit around. But am I not going to come in here and sit with people because my knees knock into others? No. I say I'm sorry if my knees knock. And I'm uncomfortable. And that's okay. Because it's not about me. It's about others. And we have to remember that.
Yeah, you covered the point that I was going to cover.
Oh, well, go.
Back in the Old Testament, there was only one person that was anointed, which was the high priest. Okay? And today, we are all anointed with the Holy Spirit. That's why we worship in spirit, like you were saying.
Right.
That's why they sacrificed, because only one person was a direct communication with the Lord through the Spirit he was anointed with. But today, it's everybody, because we're all anointed.
Right. We get so upset about physical things, and yet, I know a lot of you have clothes, I can see. The clothes actually have different fibers in them. They're not just of one fiber. Old Testament says you can't do that. Oh, you could be put to death for that. You can't wear both cloth and polyester and have spandex in it. I have shorts that are like that. They have spandex and they're made of like spandex, nylon, and cotton. You couldn't do that in the Old Testament. Oh, no, you don't mix fibers. Right, that was for purity, for holiness, physically. Now, doesn't matter. I would hate to kill anybody that because they wore different kind of threads in their, it's ridiculous, right? But yet God did it because it was important for him, for holiness. It taught them a thing. Now we have the Spirit that's supposed to teach us, okay?
But we anoint for healing, right?
Well, that's specifically referring to, yes, elders will anoint with oil. But those things, there are things that we do that are still what you could call ritualistic, but they're not ritualistic in the way that they have to be performed a specific way. You know, do you have to go in with a little censer and your smoke and wave like this, you know, and then someone comes and they've got a big cross on the stand and they put it down and some guy comes with the holy blessed oil and he says a thing that's written down in a book and he takes it, oh, anointing you, blah, 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 say after me, da, 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 pray your rosary, okay, here's the Hail Marys, you got to say, okay, now go and be healed, and da, da. That is Old Testament. A lot of the different, what you would call denominations, I hate that word, but the different sects of Christianity.
Don't hate.
Right. They have all that stuff. We have to make sure we don't do that. We have to make sure that we don't get wrapped up in that. Oh, wait a minute. We're doing 3 songs before the sermon? Not 1. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. Wait, we don't have bulletins? We got to go to an app? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it's projected on the screen? I have a friend who's blind. Oh, but there are words coming in. Okay, that's good. Well, they're blind and deaf. What are you doing for them? Sorry, you can't accommodate for everybody. Someone speaks Spanish in the room. You can't accommodate for everybody, but if someone knows that tongue, they can translate to them in that language. They're speaking in tongues. Things aren't ritualistic anymore. We have to get away from that. Yes, there's orthodoxy. I'm not coming to come in here without a shirt on. That's not modest. Right? Yeah, see?
I'll never forget Bill said what not long ago about people complaining because they weren't dressed right or whatever. He says, "Are you saved?" I said, "Well, yeah." Well, then you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Your focus should be saving other people, not what they have on.
Right.
I love that.
In fact, in Scripture in Peter talks about a dress code. And his dress code actually goes against what a lot of you are wearing. And I mean that.
Pants.
No, not pants. Back then, they had their tunics, right, that they would wear underneath this long garment. Well, then women could get something very expensive that also did the same thing, called a dress. They would wear dresses, and Peter says, don't wear those to church when you gather as the body. Why does he say that?
Because not everybody can afford.
Not everybody can afford them. How dare you, as a rich person, come in with your flashy jewelry and your nice hair braided up that would have been expensive? And not only that, you don't have it covered. You have it all braided so everybody can see all this expensive stuff and all these gems and things will be braided in their hair. You ever seen pictures of people who do that from the Middle East? That's what it would look like. All the jewelry, all of that. They had money to do it. And they'd walk in. Probably like this, or however they would, I don't know how it went. Or they did it. They'd walk in, and it would be the, oh, I'm presenting myself, I'm wearing my Sunday best, right? Oh, Peter goes, stop it. Stop it, you're heathens. Stop it. Stop it. He goes, there are those among you who come in dirty from work, because they would meet after the day. Okay? They come in dirty from work, they're sweaty, they're smelly. They come in and you've eaten all the food and all the drink because you guys got drunk doing it with your nice fancy clothes. And now these field workers who are believers with you can't even share with you.
Even with that though, I don't think that, I feel like he was addressing that
Yes.
because of the people that were doing that, their hearts were not right.
Correct.
If their hearts had been right, he probably wouldn't have even addressed it. But because their hearts were contrary, that's why he brought that up. You know?
But we still have to be careful then, because a lot of times we still teach the Sunday best. Okay? Should you wear something clean so you don't smell when you're next to other people? That's consideration. Yes. If you have it, right? If you've come from work, like someone does a night shift and they come in and they're dirty, I would hope that they come right in instead of going to bed. It's great that they'll be there, even if they're getting it osmotically and they're kind of nodding off here and there. They're there. They want to be with the body. They're doing what's commanded. They enjoy it, even though they can't fully get it because this is how they work. They're putting in that effort. We can't despise people like that. This is, again, the maturity thing. We have to use who Abram is and take that and learn from that. We have to apply that. Okay? Again, these aren't just stories. We take these and we pull them apart and look for the lessons, as Paul tells us, to search out where they made mistakes to avoid them, and to see where they did righteous things and do them. We don't have to necessarily go, okay, because Abram gave Lot the choice, that's how I'm going to do it. That's just the one thing I learned. Whenever there's a situation where I have land, Marcus bought a big parcel of land and he wants to give me some, I say, okay, I'm more mature than Marcus because I teach, right? So I'm going to give him the opportunity to choose the best land. Marcus goes, no, you ain't. I'm going to pick what I want. I done bought it. You're going to pick what's after that. Yeah? See? Right. My wife, I do impressions of people when I think that it's something interesting about the way they talk. So I started doing Marcus and my wife goes, that sounds nothing like him. I said, oh yes it does. In fact, I believe I'm pretty close to getting it. It's never to make fun. It's to when I hear people that have specific manners of speech, I love it. It's so interesting to me. But yeah, we can learn things from everything that's here. We don't just have to apply the specific situation, like a dress code. We don't just have to apply that and say, oh, it's only about dress. No, it's about your mindset. Where's your heart? Look at it in the broader context. Take it up and chew it up and apply it to your life every day. Put it into your prayers. How can I use his example to live my life? Okay? I don't want to touch 14 yet because this is one of my favorite chapters in Genesis. Yeah, because there's a lot that goes on here. Anyone have anything else for today? Anything? Questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a question. The one that states, the scripture that talks about men don't wear women's clothing. Well, how did they, the tunics and the dress, they're kind of both the same. You know, it's a dress, it's length, it's not pants.
No, it's specific. It's they wore, a dress would be something that would be fitted, that would be very elaborate, that wouldn't look like one of those straight outer garments. Yeah. Okay, and it most likely would have a lot of other, I'll give you an example. 18th century, women had dresses, but then they had those big giant ones with the, whatever the back of it is, the bodice or bustle, busset or whatever. And you knew that was for a woman. If a guy dressed like that, you'd go, oh, wait a minute. You know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's Old Testament. Yes, we need a distinction between the genders, but it's different in different cultures. We have to remember that. This was a homeostatic culture. One culture, Hebrew, Jewish, okay? It didn't change. That's the culture right through, all right? When it comes to us, we have multiculturalism. So when it comes to men wearing women's clothing, we may see something that someone from Egypt would wear and go, wait a minute, he's wearing a woman's dress. No, he's not. That's what he wears in his culture. Well, we don't see it that way. We have to remember that we're all going to be different. But no, I shouldn't go and put on a dress and come to church. God would want me to look like a man. Hence, I have short hair. I used to have long hair. Well, people, before I had the beard, would say, oh, what would you like, ma'am? Not kidding. Happened quite a bit. And then as soon as this started to grow, I said, oh, I'm not getting rid of this. Oh, no. And then years later, I cut my hair, and I definitely look like a fella. Okay?
Yeah, I can't picture you in a bustle.
Oh, hey, there was a Halloween where they put a muumuu on me and they painted my nails and I put a wig on and boy, I made a great Mrs. Mama whatever, yeah. But no, we don't do it seriously, okay? It's one thing for an actor to do it or to do it in jest. We don't do these things seriously, okay? That's something that is not... It's something that we apply, but not in such a serious way that it's like condemnable, you know. If I put an earring on, I would hope no one goes, oh, he's condemned, he has an earring. There are cultures where men wear earrings. It's just part of their culture, okay? The New Testament.
Yeah, but you're not part of that culture, so you shouldn't do it, right?
Oh, no, I'm not. But yet you got young kids out here who got all these tattoos, and they got piercings. Is that part of their culture?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, they're
For
making,
me,
they're
I will
making
never
that.
wear a tattoo because what would I put on my body that's so important that I'd want it indemnified on me? Nothing. Scripture would probably be the only thing. But then why would I write it on myself when I have paper and I have this? I'm not big on pictures because I have this. I don't need a picture because I got that. One day this will go away and it will be sad. But yeah, that stuff, it all comes down to what's the purpose of it. Why would you wear a fancy dress and nice jewelry to church? What's the point? Okay? Why would you get all doddled up for that thing? Where's your mindset? Okay? Kids, when they come to be believers, they don't know that yet. They don't know. And so they're going to do the crazy hair dyes and the crazy earrings and all that. And then when they come to know Jesus and you start to teach them about maturity, they go, what is the reason I did that? Why did I do that? And you've got kids who have big earlobes because they had gauges who realize that they shouldn't have done that. But that's part of the mistakes. It's part of the scars of sometimes sin and then sometimes just bad choices. You know? But we don't curse them for that. We don't look away from them. We realize that they had a past life, that they lived in sin, that they lived there believing that they're the only important thing. And we just love them through that.
Russell, on the other end of the
Spectrum.
spectrum, whatever. I mean, it's not wrong for someone to come in all dressed up, is it?
What's the purpose? That's always the question.
I mean, that's...
If you were raised that way and you believe that this is important. Oh, that's a good question. If you believe that you have to wear your Sunday best because that's what you were taught, and I say don't wear it, and you come to church and don't wear it and feel bad, what have I done? Cause them to sin. Why?
Because of your own feelings.
Well, because of their faith. Because I'm telling them, your conscience says that I'm going to make you do something that you believe is wrong, and so in your faith, you're doing something against your faith. Your faith dictates that you go in there with presentable, what you would describe as, subjectively, presentable makeup, whatever you wear, your hair doesn't look like my hair does this morning. Oh gosh. You know, my beard. You know, it doesn't, you have to make it presentable, and that's what you wear, the nice clothes. And if you didn't, you would feel like you were wronging people. Then don't. Then do that thing. Because that would be sin if you didn't do what you believed is important for God. Okay? If you believe that you've been taught to pray every day, and then at night you don't, and you feel bad about it, then do it. Then do it. You don't have to pray every day. There's nothing that says a command, pray every day. You forget. You live your life. You're supposed to be in a living in prayer, always and ready for communion with God. But if you set these things up, you have to learn that they're not important. But if you believe they're important at the time, you do them or else you sin. We have to remember that. Sin isn't just a list of bad things. It's not just a list of good things. It always comes down to, thank you so much, Yolanda, intent. What is your intent behind the thing? A great example of this is when Daniel is going to pray no matter what. He always prays with his window open towards Jerusalem, okay? When the command goes out that you can't do that, he knows that he's going to do that regardless of the command. He doesn't close his window because that's what he does for God. He prays facing this direction with the window open. Evil people use that against him. God uses it against them, okay? Could he have closed the window and gone into his prayer closet like Jesus says? He could have. He could have. But he believes that this is important, so I'm going to do it this way. Okay? Sometimes we do get in those roles of saying, this is how it has to be done. We have to do communion this time, offering it this time. We have to do it this way. Slowly we learn that things don't have to be that way. And that's how we mature. But something can still be done sinfully because we think it's important. But here's where we don't force it on others. I eat meat. If one of you is a vegetarian, I will not eat meat in front of you if you don't want me to. Paul says that. That's the mindset we should have. If you think I should stand here with pants on, and all of you would listen to me that much more with pants, I'm going to wear pants. I'm going to wear pants. I can teach you that I don't have to wear pants, but I'm going to wear them. Because I want every single one of you to listen. All of you. You want me to wear a tie? I will wear that tie. Please don't make these things now. Please don't. I will say this. I never really tied a tie until I started preaching. And my buddy said, you don't have to wear the jacket, but wear a button down, slacks, and I wore tennis shoes. But he said, and put on a tie. And I learned how to tie a tie. Boy, I'd sit there for 5 minutes perfecting that tie every morning. Why? Not because it was about the tie, but because I wanted it to look nice, and I was doing it for God because those people wanted it. And then when we got polos, he said, you can wear a polo, you don't have to do the tie. Boy, that tie was gone. Gone. Still had the slacks, but didn't have the tie, okay? It's not about us. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in those things, but we can learn that it's unimportant over time. But that's where that maturity comes in, okay? And we, if we're mature, have to be understanding of those who aren't. So yes, there's nothing wrong with doing the thing, but if you think that thing is important, you don't necessarily have to tell others that it's important for you. And you do that, that's a way of glorifying God. I think this is important to do for God, I'm going to do it. Okay?
You know, Russ,
When we went to Billy's thing the other night, when we were just getting ready to go or leave, Connie and I were sitting beside each other, and there was this lady that just sat down close to where you were, but next table. And I promise you guys, if she had that much further to go, she would have had no top on. I mean, literally. I mean, it was just, Connie looked at me and said, why would she do that? I mean, people are gonna look at people when they do stuff like that.
Oh, I can answer that easily. Why did she do that? Because that's what she wants to do and that's her culture. But instead of saying, oh my gosh, we just have to understand this is where we live. It's going to get a lot weirder, folks.
Yes.
You think right now that it's bad? Oh, it's going to get a lot worse.
yeah, this whole thing, I'm gonna sum it all up because I'm gonna point out Galatians chapter 5, which is living by the Spirit, okay? But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, kindness, patience, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, which is everything that you've really been covering here. Okay, since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit, all right? Let us not become conceited, provoking, and envying each other.
Right.
I mean, it seems to cover everything, all about what
Yeah,
we're
against these things there is no law.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I want that to be your takeaway. Just because you think something is important doesn't mean it is, but it's important to you. Okay? I can't go and tell you to pray every day. I live in prayer. That's one of my favorite things. Okay? And I wear a ball cap whenever I'm outside, but boy, that ball cap comes right off. If I even think that I'm going to pray, that ball cap comes off. Okay? Again, to my head, I don't want to dishonor him. So, but that's important for me. Ed may not know that. I could later on teach him, hey Ed, let's go to 1 Corinthians 11 and let's talk about that. Okay? Women don't like the other part of 1 Corinthians 11 that talks about what they do, but that's, again, there's a maturity thing there. Okay? Okay? But, taking that, just remember, it's about Jesus always, every day. Sorry, I went a little off there.
Very good.